disclosure of interest, please? Angela and Hugh, do you want to speak?
Yeah, can I ask a question? Is Councillor Rimington has got a conflict of interest as chair, which is my understanding, but he doesn't have a conflict of interest as far as the meeting is concerned. I don't think he's got any conflict to declare for the meeting, which is why he stood down.
Okay, so the question wasn't asked of the lawyer, so Chris?
The comment I'd make is that Councillor Rimington, as the chairperson of council, has chosen to stand aside, if I understand that correctly, for the remainder of this meeting. As the chairman of the meeting. He is still at this stage the chairperson, the chairman of this council.
Yes. So does that mean he's still entitled to have discussions and voting?
You'd need to ask Councillor Rimington if he is still choosing to be involved in discussion and vote.
Carefully, all the information that was sent out to you is very clear in the Tompkins Wake report. If you want to take time to read that,
nope.
So be it. But that's the way I read it.
Kapai. So, who was our mover? I forgot. Strange, and I thought it was you, Matua, but you were pushing your button. Okay. Item 4. This is around deputations. We have 2 gentlemen who have been given the opportunity to be deputations today. I don't know them, I can't see who they are, but there are some rules I'm going to lay out to the both of you. Right, kia ora koutou, kia ora koru. And you yeah, there's some rules I'm going to lay out to you. You choose to accept and keep speaking even though I've laid out the rules. And they are, first and foremost, I believe you two are here in a private capacity. Therefore, I don't want to have any corridor around your councillor status for Hamilton City Council. That is absolutely not going to be accepted today. You are also unable to criticise any of our elected members or our staff. You're also not to speak on the same issue that the person has before you. I know I'm repeating things you know, but it's always good for everybody else to hear. You also, the matter is subject to legal proceedings. Should you go outside these rules I'm trying to speak to. And as you also, I don't, as we have said, we don't want to hear any disrespecting speech from you both around our staff and our councillors, which also leads to bullying speech that you might decide to use, an eloquent speech that only you understand. And the other one is that, of course, the matter is subject to hearing, including the hearing of submissions with a local authority or committee, so should this go there. And also, you have 5 minutes each. We have a timekeeper that will keep you to time. I will disrupt you if I believe that your corridor is going outside the realm of my understanding why you are here. So, first one up, I believe, is you choose. Introduce yourself as you go along.
Through the chair, just one question, procedural question.
Yes.
Will we be taking questions of the deputation, yes or no, at this point, rather than hanging it out at the end?
So also, I'm not going to open the floor to questions after, because this is about you, from my perspective as chair, giving a corridor, as I've said, around what you want to do. I don't want the floor open to questions. Ka pai tēnā?
Ka pai.
Ka pai. Ka.
Start the clock. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko mania toto te ukaipo, ko taeri te awa, ko orangapai te maunga, ke nā te Pākehā te iwi, ko kirikiri roa te tūranga waiwai, ko Mark Bunting taku ingoa. I am not here to stick my nose into your business, but I'm very grateful for your time. I appreciate that this is an awkward and a sensitive day, and so the fact that you have allowed us to speak today speaks volumes. So kia ora to that. So I'm not here to stick my nose into your business, but I am here to perhaps help your business today from putting a big old stain on my business, and that is local leadership. I personally believe that today could be a grave mistake, but out of every crisis comes opportunity. You as a group have the opportunity to have what some may consider a wee political win, but one that comes with a bigger community cost than I think a lot of us realise. And you have an even bigger opportunity yet to earn the respect of our community by finding a peaceful way through this matter. What we do speaks louder than what we say. So I'm not here. Oh, did I say something wrong? Oh, good. to stick up for Russ. Heaven knows he's annoyed me and offended me plenty of times and will probably continue to do so. But such is the beautiful diversity of Aotearoa. I'm here to stick up for the office. And I'd like to do that by making sure 4 respectful points. Number 1, courageous conversations. We are an incredible renaissance of culture in Aotearoa. We'll all agree. This term, this community has dealt with statues being ripped out, Māori representation, arts policies, procurement policies, Heipo Mana Ora, transport mode shift, all under the cover of COVID. And as we look around comes the biggest central government transformation of local government we've ever seen in the form of RMA reform, 3 waters, the review into local government, and heaven only knows what's coming down the track. Now that's a lot for our community to digest. So understandably, there's a lot to be angry about and a lot to be afraid of. How do we get through it? Kōrero, talking and listening. Some stories are hard to hear, but they must be heard by everyone. And if we truly listen to what's being said rather than focusing on how it's being said and the manner in which it is spoken, then we will be Not now. Elections come in 5 months. Unfortunately, this is the headline. You and this group have done. This is the headline. This could be our legacy. This is what will get reported. Is this what you want to be? Oh, can you hear me? Oh, people online can't? Okay, sorry. Okay, I'll do my best. So the media love this. Believe me, Jeff and I have worked in the local media for many, many years. We know how it works. And we are all working very, very hard as a collective to bring respect to local leadership. Believe me, I work with some people I don't like very much either, but we've got to do it. We have to do it. And I can have a crack at the next elections at making a difference then. Jeff's come out and said he's going for mayor. Heck, I might even have a go myself. We're allowed to do that. It's absolutely fine. To my mind, that is the time and place. Finally, think about your whakapapa. Some of you wanting to take this action are 2nd and 3rd generation in this game. Some of you come from tūpuna, who've done incredible things for this place. Some of you have tūhanga, who will look back on what you did for this place and hopefully will be proud to walk in your footprints. Some of you have been here for a long time. Some of you are here for the first time and you're doing great things. What do you want to be remembered for? Do you really want to be famous for not liking what was said, so you got the numbers and you rolled the boss 5 months before an election? What you do speaks louder than what you say. So with that little tut, I will remove my nose from your business, invite you all to stick your nose into my business when I am erring and you think I'm making a mistake, because that's what mates do in the Waikato. That's how we support each other. So I wish you and us all the very best in your decision making today. Please take it extremely seriously. It affects all of us. Nō rero. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ngā mihi nui.
Good. Thank you. Jeff. You may leave if you want to. We're not asking questions, so ka pai tēnā. No, thank you for coming. Jeff, all yours.
Thank you, Chair, CE, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm speaking as a private citizen, as a resident of Hamilton, not representing Hamilton City Council. And I'm also not here to try to tell you what to do, although I do realise that a media story last week that I contributed to, something I said might have seemed a little bit bossy, and I apologise for that. I tend to be a bit like Russ sometimes, a little too blunt, according to my wife, so I apologise if I came across strongly. I'm not here to try to tell you what to do. I'm here to respectfully urge you, respectfully ask you to take an action other than sacking your chairman today. I've known Russ for 23 years, firstly as a reporter when he was Mayor of Hamilton, and we had an adversarial, exciting relationship. And in latter years, we've developed into friends. He's a very good man, an extremely kind and generous friend. Russ has always been blunt and direct and honest to a fault. That's how he's wired. We're all different. And Russ doesn't try to walk both sides of the street. And that's a rare quality in politicians. I admire it. Behind his manner is a hell of a lot of depth, intelligence, and a very deep love and respect for Hamilton and Waikato and its people. And I would ask you not to underestimate that. I don't deny that Russ may have crossed the line in terms of the way he expressed himself, and I don't think Russ would deny that either. He can shoot from the hip on occasion, as you all know. We're all human, and people don't always express themselves as they mean to in verbal conversation. I know I don't. But being blunt about your views doesn't mean you're not sincere. And I think it's a pretty powerful, not to mention frightening thing to sack someone for expressing a sincerely held view. Can I suggest that a code of conduct approach may be a better way of handling the issue? I actually think publicly toppling Russ today for expressing himself months out from the end of the term would be an incredibly sad outcome. Firstly, for Russ himself, who is a man who has served the community for 40 years through organisations such as Field Days, Hospice Waikato, Well Energy Trust, Hamilton City Council, and of course the Regional Council. As a reporter, I covered Russ's achievements with the good and the bad back in the day, and there are a lot. The walkway around the lake that no one else dared take on, the joint venture for the Novotel Hotel, Innovation Park, the creation of Claudelands Park, Te Araho Social Services Village, wide spectrum of things there. And he is a deserved recipient of the Freedom of the City, a very rare honour. That's who you'd be removing today as your chairman. Secondly, personally, I think a coup is a sad look for any council. And I would urge you not to go down this path if you can help it. Because I think personally Russ has led this organisation really well. And with only months left in the term, it would be quite obvious that it's not being done for performance reasons. It will appear as if it's being done for effect, for impact, for punishment. And above all, I worry that it sends a signal that we as a community can't discuss issues such as Three Waters and co-governance openly, because if in doing so we cause offence, we will be publicly shamed and punished. Is that really a signal that you want to send? Surely we must be able to talk about these issues openly. Shouldn't we be encouraging debate rather than stifling it, rather than shutting it down? I don't think we should tiptoe around these issues because they affect all of us. And if we're going to take the community forward together, we need to be open. We need to have these conversations. If we make these issues taboo, so they can't be honestly discussed and questioned, I think that's counterproductive because I think it drives the feelings underground and it deepens resentment and ultimately fosters division. This community hasn't had a decent conversation on Three Waters and co-governance. My plea is don't shut it down before it begins, please. don't take such a drastic action
Sorry.
if you can help it. Sorry.
Can you close it off now?
Absolutely. Okay. So there is another way you can handle this issue today by following a code of conduct process. I know from first-hand experience those can be rigorous, tough and humbling processes because I've been on the end of them as well. So I urge you to go down the route. You will still make your point, but I think it will be classier and a more unifying path to go down. I sincerely believe you will take your community with you if you take this step.
You've already been over that path. Move on.
They will respect your use of discretion. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today.
Ka pai tēnā. Thank you. We're going to do recommendations because I'm not having questions. So the first recommendation, they're up on somewhere. Yeah.
Very much.
So can I have someone move the report? In a second. Thank you. Can you see who that did? Stu Newburn and Tipper. We're on to item 5. And item 5 is the requisition for the removal of the chair. So, Chris?
Madam Chair, I made some comments at the outset that this is a very serious and important matter of high public interest. I don't believe I need to make any other comments. Marty might to make some, but I think it would probably be important that you outline how you intend to run this session.
Marley?
Kia ora tātou. Thank you, Chris, and through you, Madam Chair. Just very quickly, my role today is to assist Council through the process, and I might take more time than I typically would, given the significance of the matters before us today and also the public interest, so please bear with me. Just to set a bit of context, have I got the right slide up? Let me just go to the appropriate place in the presentation. Here we go. So addressing the requisition for the removal of the chairperson, just some comments. The requisitions that are attached to the report and circulated within your agenda were delivered to the Chief Executive on the 17th of April, and they call for an extraordinary meeting of Council to deal with matters associated with the role of the Chair. The power to remove a chairperson is prescribed in Clause 18, Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act. I won't repeat exactly what is within that Act, but I will say that the requisitions that were received back on the 17th do meet the requirements of that particular clause in the legislation. I also think it's important to identify or to emphasise that additional process actions required by that particular clause have been completed prior to the meeting, and these include notification to the elected members no less than 14 days prior to the meeting, also public notification of today's meeting, and then lastly, making sure our agenda is available within the required timeframe. So we've met all of the requirements of the Act. As for the process today, I have outlined up on the slide as well as within the agenda the process for the meeting. And so, in summary, standing orders will apply, and the process by which the matter will be dealt with is up on the slide and in the agenda. So the chairperson will call for a mover and a seconder for the motion. Each member will be given the opportunity to speak to that motion. And just as a suggestion, rather than taking or using our usual system of hitting the button and using the light, in order to maintain order today, just a suggestion for the chair, you might want to consider just taking or giving the opportunity for members to make their comment in order of as they're sitting around the table. And of course, the mover and seconder do have the opportunity for a right of reply at the end, 5 minutes max each time the individuals talk today. And the other thing that I wanted to emphasise as well, to make it very clear, is that the motion on the table is the motion to remove the chair. That's what we must deal with first, because that is what is within the requisition. So if it isn't clear to you in the report, that is what we're considering first up. The chairperson will put the motion once everybody's had the opportunity to have their say, and the resolution carries if a majority votes in favour. And so for us here at the Regional Council, that means 8 elected members. I'll leave it there, Madam Chair, and take any questions before handing back to you to call for a mover and a seconder.
Questions to Marlene?
On the screen.
I'll stop sharing my screen so that Dave can put up the resolution.
What are you putting up?
So if there aren't any further questions, then I'll hand back to the chairperson to call for a mover and a seconder.
Yes. Is the motion up? Who is that? Yep.
It's not up on the screen.
It's not on the screen, Dave. You've got the wrong ones up. Mm. So the first motion is to, okay, so we're going straight into this. Okay. So the motion is that the council removes Councillor Remington from the position of chair of the Waikato Regional Council. Do we have a mover? Stu Nebo. And seconder, Dennis Teague. Okay, so I am going to do a round table conversation. I'm going to leave the mover and a seconder for the end to take into everybody's consideration the kōrero. It's going to be timed, unfortunately, for 5 minutes. So I'm going to start with Kathy, and we're going to go this way, Kathy. So Kathy, you're up first. 5 minutes.
Thank you,
The
Chair.
recommendation
Okay,
only.
so I don't support this recommendation. I believe that fair process, natural justice and good outcomes are the things that we always need to focus on, and I think these are things that we would all agree that we're committed to. I guess that's why I'm concerned about this requisition for the removal of our chairperson. I think the timing of this is a political thing. And I also believe that rolling the chair is a major thing. It's an upsetting thing and a huge upheaval for us all. And a really sad reflection on the majority of achievements by this council in this triennium. Now, Russ might have been bold enough to say some of the things that others haven't on issues to do with things like Three Waters, the Ohiniwai proposal, the water care applications for additional water allocation from the Waikato River. He's even said, he's even been bold enough to say that sometimes we have problems with getting a quorum in committees with iwi. And sometimes these things are difficult for us to say, but actually if they're things which are real issues that we have, we need a leader who is going to be willing to speak them. I think it's important to look at the big picture of Russ. I'm proud of the things that he has led us to achieve in this triennium. And I don't believe there is justification for removing him from the chair's position. Now, the thing is, he has recently been accused of making statements to a journalist, which Russ denies. He says that he's been misrepresented in this article, and he's made these claims really strongly. I think as a council, we always have to act on the evidence, and if somebody is disputing something this significant, then we should actually wait for his complaint to the Press Council to be considered. I don't believe that we should make a decision to remove him from his chair without actually knowing whether those statements were true and whether he was represented correctly. So my understanding is the journalist hasn't been willing to provide a transcript or a recording. They want a court order to do that. And what I ask is, why would a journalist require a court order if they believe strongly that their evidence is sound? I guess for me, it's just, I would have thought if they have confidence in their accuracy, they would have provided it. They would have been happy to do so in time for this meeting. And I believe that what court would judge a person as guilty without having that evidence, I really believe that if we do judge him guilty without that evidence, and Russ gets his Press Council complaints subsequently dealt with, and it shows him to be right, how are we going to feel about that? I personally am going to feel really unhappy about the decision that this council has made. I think it leaves us open to legal challenge, and even worse, in my opinion, it reveals us as ethically damaged. So I would just like to say that a lot of councillors around this table have done things which I don't believe have always been done well. There have been times when Russ has had people turn up in his office and bully him into doing certain things, which I don't think are right. I don't think it's fair that, for instance, he's had the finger pointed at him completely over the issues to do with Fred, because a lot of the councillors around this table have demanded that Russ deal with Fred really harshly. It's councillors around this table who've actually put that pressure on to get very harsh outcomes for Fred. And look, I think we're all of the opinion that that needs to be looked at again. I believe that everyone needs to look at their own bullying behaviour, and they really need to ask themselves whether they've been fair. Again, I just take you back to fair process, natural justice, and good outcomes. And if there is another way of getting a good outcome that is fair, that reflects well on us all, then that is the one that I think that we should actually take. So I guess from my perspective, I think we're putting ourselves at reputational risk. I don't think there's justification this close to the election, and I believe it is a political move rather than something which can be justified from the evidence. So I do not support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Stu, husband.
Madam Chair, I do not support this motion. I'd just like to welcome everyone for coming. Freedom of speech and democracy. I attended an Anzac Day parade in Tikawara this year and listened to the Kaumatua talk about pride in the Māori battalion and all the Anzacs who served and fought for their country and for freedom of speech and democracy. When I try to relate this to today, when we're doing here is the complete opposite of everything he spoke to, and silencing a community whose representatives spoke their views, the community's views. This is like shooting the messenger. How else is the chair or any councillor supposed to get their point across if he doesn't voice it? Isn't that our job as councillors? Is that our job? Misquoted by the media. I too have been in a position where my actions have been misconstrued by the media in the past. When I was in the fire brigade, I was on the front page of the Gisborne Herald, smiling after attending a house fire where the occupants had died. I was not smiling at the event. It was a very horrific event, but I was more smiling at a fire safety officer that passed me at the time. But that didn't matter. The headline read, "Firefighters have fun whilst children die." In this instant, there is no actual evidence. This is the second thing I'm talking about. The chair, of what the chair said, the tape hasn't been provided as far as I know. He has a complaint in with the Press Council that has still not been heard yet and hasn't come back, hasn't been resolved. So, in my opinion, today is nothing more than a kangaroo court. Therefore, he has been judged without any evidence and is certainly not being treated as innocent until proven guilty. Manipulation in politics. In my first triennium, I was in the position where I was convinced I was doing the right thing when senior councillors talked to me about taking the chair of catchment from Stu Kneebone. They had played to my naivety that Stu was not doing a good job and that I was the man for the job. And I followed along. In hindsight, and with 9 years under my belt, I know this was not the right course of action, and I have felt both ashamed and guilty of ever being manipulated by silk-tongued politicians. Stu has his chair back, and rightly so. The guilt and the tapu that come that day, I couldn't live with. It is my hope that my first triennium colleagues here today aren't in a similar position and aren't being manipulated by political gains and power struggles and personal agendas. In summary, I'm extremely disappointed we cannot work as a team. And we are here today to try and remove an experienced person from his position. The chair has conducted himself through a difficult triennium with COVID and a load of politically charged agendas, which needed to be debated without repercussions. We should be supporting each other through these discussions, not alienating opinions. I've been here before in a council who wanted to remove the chair, and it was decided, even though we had the 8 signatures to remove Paula Southgate, that we wouldn't do it. It was a wiser, smarter decision for the leadership of this council not to do it, but we had the 8 signatures to remove her over Healthy Rivers. What happens in council is a reflection on all of us, and we run the risk of looking like a... This, to me, is 100% a 3 waters and co-governance conversation. The chair gave his community view, speaking against government mandates as per his job, and should not pay the ultimate price because others disagree with him. This is not freedom of speech. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks for the kind words from the previous 2 speakers. Look, I might not be perfect, but I'm upfront on my values, and I clearly state and articulate what I stand for and don't talk in 2 tongues. I say you are a good young council, that you are trendsetters, and you've been that right from the start. We set the first Climate Action Standing Committee in this nation. Public transport is a dedicated committee, and how long that's taken to actually get that to where it is today. You know, within a kind of month coming into office, we were confronted with coronavirus. I went to our Risk and Management Deputy Chair, Councillor Quayle. I said, this is going to be a biggie. I remember Barry said, my view, it's really going to be just a SARS and an escalation of that. That meeting we had, I think was about the first week in January. The Prime Minister was still in Australia. I just had a gut feeling this is going to be a big one. And we laid down our plans, and that is leadership, and you were part of that. I wrote to Minister Mahuta concerning standing orders of all councils, that the risk is that we would not be able to function as councils in this country because we would not be able to vote if we're not in person. Vaughan Payne, exceptional CEO, said, we'll get round that. We'll actually give the delegated authority both to myself and to Vaughan as a check and balance. And that really got the show on the road. Minister Mahuta did respond and alter the legislation. We were the first to identify what could have been a massive problem. Previous speakers have said the Water Summit. This council, I believe, over the 25 years has never really been and taken this strong PR role as we have in the last 2.5 years. Sleepyhead again was a good outcome. We've demanded better urban design and public transport facilities in what could have been just another Pocono. The Tahuya train and a lot of kind of, if I may say, misinformation. The last was actually listening to the report on Radio Raglan when Councillor Lichbark was stating there were 10. There's 400 in the day, and it's going to be a great success. And I, with others, have led the charge, particularly Councillor Verco, but you've all supported it. You've made the call. Most of those meetings we've had, even when the going got tough, are unanimous. We employed a new CEO in this time, just in 2.5 years, and we got a cracker. He and we merged 6 campuses together. Reboot could have been a multi-million-dollar blowout. I can't take credit that it's not a multi-million-dollar blowout, but I was certainly the chairman, and if it was a multi-million-dollar blowout, I know it would be on the end of the media haranguing. New build, right in the middle of COVID, we developed the 10-year plan. Couple I can see sitting on the other side, didn't even bother to turn up. We got section 33, groundbreaking. Councillor Lichbark went there and got the video, got the tape recording for naughty reasons, but it was groundbreaking again. And Minister David Parker, how thrilled he was that we had the strength to actually be the first in this country. And we got a great award at the Solgum Awards. I think it was this year, they all merged into one for me. We have had a weakness in this council, and it was Councillor Lichbark, to be blunt, where he's played to a different beat. And you text me, Utu, and I suspect it might be going to be served today. But I've done it for the right reasons, because I've seen so many councils in this country being absolutely destroyed, and one would be an example close to here of Tauranga, of where you've got commissioners. What a sad state of affairs, where you have non-elected people running your council. And after this election, they're going to continue on. And I believe this council, unless it was a strong leadership that I exercised, could have gone down the same path, because I've watched with dismay at the previous chair and the problems has he struggled with. The very first CIRC meeting I had, the CEO was nearly in tears, Mr. Vaughan Payne.
Councillor Remington, your time's up, nearly up. Can you wind your korero down, please?
I haven't started.
Then you need to move on. We have to move to the next person.
And then Councillor Story comes in tears. When we've actually took it to Councillor Lichbark, I've kept your council every step of the way. And the first, and probably the only mistake, is Three Waters, because I felt passionate about it. I was chairperson of Well Energy Trust, and yesterday they announced $120 million into our community. And what is probably the biggest thing I find to get the head around is where the government promised to consult for Three Waters, or opt in and opt out.
Councillor Remington, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop you now. You've got more time than anybody else so far.
Well, I think I should.
So I'm going to have to move to the person next to you.
All good.
Thank you for your
the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Pamela, Councillor Story.
Madam Chair. Since the resign or be rolled request was made by Councillor McPherson, Litchwork, Nicol, Strange, Kneebone, Tegg, Mahuta, and Hodge, I've had a number of conversations with constituents, and the overwhelming response to this extraordinary meeting has been, is there no more important matters for Waikato Regional Council to attend to? When you talk about the avalanche of regulations and the possible impacts on the region, is rolling the chair the decision that warrants the resources of WRC? Is this how council uses ratepayer money? Don't you have anything better to do? For me personally, I agree with that. However, it seems that the 8 councillors I mentioned earlier don't feel that this is a waste of time, energy, and resources. Those 8 councillors appear to think that this debate right here, whether or not Chair Russ should remain the chair for the next 4.5 months before the next election, somehow sits at the heart of making a better Waikato. I strongly disagree with their position. However, here we are using time, energy, and resources and ratepayer money debating this matter. So my question is, on what basis is there a call to roll the chair? What evidence is there? What evidence is there that we should lose complete faith in his ability to see us through the end of this triennium? Issues of last year were dealt with at our December 2021 meeting. So those issues, to my mind, are no longer up for debate. Unlike Councillor Litchwork, who for well over a year has repeatedly refused to abide by the decision of council, Chair Russ has. He's made apologies and he's actively engaged with Te Tiriti training that's been made available to all of us. If there's new evidence of significant wrongdoing by the chair, I'd like to hear it. And in my view, it would need to be very significant to warrant the time, energy, and resources to call an extraordinary meeting of council. I've not been provided with any of that ahead of this meeting. Councillor McPherson was quoted in the News Talk ZB article as wanting Chair Russ moved as chair, not due to one single thing, but a, quote, whole range of matters. What are these matters? What is Councillor McPherson referring to exactly? If there is a whole range of matters, why have councillors not been informed? Why hasn't this information been forthcoming prior to this meeting? If Councillor McPherson is referring to the newsroom article, could the chair have been more thoughtful and diplomatic in some of the words he's quoted to have used? Yes. But was he expressing a viewpoint that is shared by a significant number of constituents with regards to Three Waters? Russ is quoted as saying, quote, I think it would be disproportionate and I don't think it's the will of the people, end quote. I believe Chair Russ was articulating the questions and comments of many constituents regarding the Three Waters proposal. Certainly his statements echo the positions expressed by many constituents that have spoken with me about the reforms. In our own official position on Three Waters that was adopted in September 2021, the majority view was that, quote, it is clear the wider community has had little opportunity to understand the proposals, that, quote, questions remain about whether the proposed model is the right one, and we urged, quote, further community consultation. Our agreed view as council is that there has been insufficient consultation and there is a lack of understanding as to the impact of the proposed model. Is that not what Chair Russ was expressing? Personally, given Councillor McPherson's self-professed commitment to rooting out all inefficiencies and any waste of ratepayer money, I'm surprised that he has spearheaded this motion. I'm unclear as to how Councillor McPherson views this use of resources this close to an election as serving the betterment of the region. Personally, I don't see today's meeting as productive for the Waikato region. In fact, I think, if anything, it brings this entire council into disrepute. It's interesting to me that at the LGNZ Zone 2 meeting on the 25th of March of this year, when a mayor of the Zone 2 TLA labeled the Waikato Regional Council as dysfunctional, Councillor Nichols spoke up to defend the council as anything but dysfunctional. And yet less than 3 weeks later, she not only signed, but as I understand it, personally presented alongside Councillor McPherson, the letter calling for Chair Russ to resign or be rolled. I believe that we have been a functional council. Look at what we've accomplished under Chair Russ. And Chair Russ listed a number of them, including our response to COVID-19, our historic and award-winning Section 33 transfer to Ngāti Tūwharetoa, the establishment of the Climate Action Committee, the Regional Connections Committee, securing shovel-ready projects, financial support to help address the impact of koi carp, launching the Tuhuia, the climate change roadmap discussion document.
Councillor Story, you need to wind down your time.
I believe we've accomplished quite a lot. I believe we have been very functional up until today. I'd argue that there are many more important things that require our attention, and this is not one of them. I will not vote in support of a motion that would validate this organization and this council as dysfunctional, and I will not support a motion that distracts this organization from its higher calling, that of ensuring a better Waikato for generations to come. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Kia ora, Councillor Story. Councillor Coe.
Thank you, Chair. Russ, you'll know that I didn't support you for being appointed as chair. However, you set aside my opposition and supported me as chair of finance. And I have enjoyed the relationship of being able to advance a number of things very progressively in conjunction with you. So you didn't apply what some may apply, which is when somebody opposes you, you put out pasture. That did not happen. So I thank you for that. And I reiterate, some councillors have said that we have achieved a lot in, it doesn't always get the press, but we have achieved a lot. And I'm keen to ensure that this council is recognised as having achieved a lot and the actions that we've taken to date. So this particular point is one which is to a degree of regret. I do seek to hear, I want to hear today the evidence that led to the signing of that letter, because I have not yet seen that evidence. So I'd like to see that, and I thank you, Chair, for being able to speak prior to the other councillors. So I'm looking forward to that. But I do not support the motion currently. Thank you.
Good. Andrew. You're next because he's the second, so he's up. You got nothing to add? Jennifer. Andrew has chosen not to speak. Ines is the seconder, so he's going to be later. So, Jennifer.
From what's been said already today, it is clear that not everyone understands why we're here today. Ideally, the issue would have been solved internally, but unfortunately, that's not the path that's chosen by Russ. We're here today because the majority of councillors have lost faith in the chair. If Russ had really listened to the debate on the 9th of December, and definitely the discussion in the council only time in early April, and really read the letter that was handed to him, it's due to a range of reasons that have been creeping up over time. There has been inaccurate communication of agreed council positions, and he's been in the media mentioning his own view. And then I want to tell you something that's actually really useful to know. There is a real difference between a mayoral role and a chair role. There was a long debate on that about 30 years ago in the last big reforms. And it was made, the specific decision was made not to make the chair of a regional council, of a regional authority, elected by the people. It was to be elected by their peers. Now, mayors have many more liberties to be the voice of the people, as well as being a representative spokesperson of their council. A chair role is simply a voice of the council. And so it is a serious thing when someone is speaking with the regional councillor chair hat on and not sticking to the script that they were given, because we do want the democracy to work in the way that it was designed. Additionally, there were, or there is still, a culture of complaints and counter complaints and inconsistent and biased handling of some of those. And some of them haven't genuinely been resolved. The culture of complaints hasn't been enjoyable as a first-time councillor. And I thank Pamela Story for raising that I stood up to Mayor Alan Sanson when he attacked our council, saying we were politically dysfunctional. And he was putting that in context of saying that we weren't making good policy decisions, which I took a lot of exception to. Our context there is that Mayor Alan Sanson and Chair Remington don't get along. So a bit of a dig perhaps happening at the LGNZ Day. But I will certainly stand up for the decisions that this council makes and has been making. I think we have worked well in that regard. When we shared some of those concerns in the council-only time, there was not even an attempt made to keep or regain our trust. It just seemed like our views were indifferent to Chair Remington. And since then, he's also not been in touch to ask how he could rectify things as such. I voted for Russ Remington at the start of the triennium because I genuinely wanted to. There were no deals, nothing. I came in and he literally had the better speech, to be honest. Over time, I've obviously come to this point where I've signed that initial piece and we're here today. And for your information, I have also not had any constituents tell me that this isn't the right way forward, and I've had some external stakeholders give some positive feedback. So that's important to me as well. And that's my addition to why we're here today. And I see there are two possible paths forward. Potentially Russ stays, that's a real possibility. There'll be some discontent continuing. Some people may be more demoralised. But we will all have learned a lot, that's for sure. And the alternative is that we accept that enough people want to change and that we start to resolve some of those long-term issues and rebuild a more positive culture, setting us up well for the next training. Thank you.
Tēnā tātai. I think us cleaning out our own house is good governance time. It doesn't have to be at a separate meeting like today, but if we don't tend to it ourselves, then who else gets to? So holding the conscience of this council to account is good governance for this region, in my opinion. This region started to become more inclusive when I was invited as a member under a brave council who saw co-governance coming. Now we're unwelcomed by the debate. The way the debate is held in this house is not held in the most respectful way I think it could be. And in fact, it's held in forums where where the co-governing partner isn't there to speak. So there's no mana in that kind of conversation, in my opinion. This council has had no mana in my community for this term for a lack of wanting to be in relationship with them. That mana is led by the chair. Now, Russ, to your credit, December, you said you took the growling, you'll take it, and we'll work forward. So on that basis, happy to work forward with you. Then we got to the unfortunate comment being quoted again. And at that meeting, we asked you a ton of questions about how you could reframe it for us so we could still have confidence in you. You refused to. You're more interested in what the media inquiry will give than assuring your councillors who were in a room with you. So again, it's a matter of relationships. I don't doubt your contribution to Hamilton. In fact, I benefit from it. So I thank your long career, and we didn't want it to go this way. That's why we spent so long in that meeting trying to get you to write us a memo that put it in a context so that it didn't go totally outside of what we asked for in December. So that's unfortunate. That's how we get to today. Do I think that you want to chair a council that can have a good co-governance conversation? It hasn't been proven to me to date. We could have had a whole number of different opportunities to have that conversation fully informed though, not just me and Kata batting for the other team. That is not how we discuss co-governance. I accept that all councillors took responsibility for where we got to in December, and all councillors are now trying to again become the council for the region. So with respect to your Hamilton contribution and your colleagues that came from Hamilton, no one's denying that. But this is regional government, and
we've got to make decisions that make sense in Thames, Taupo, and all the other places in the region, not just Hamilton. Noting all the constituents that came today are probably from here as well. So again, everyone wanted to turn this into a Three Waters debate. It wasn't about that. It was about, as you as our leader, are you going to speak for us or speak for yourself? 2 strikes now. You've spoken for yourself. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that, Russ. Do I regard you? Hell yeah, you've made more of a community contribution than a whole lot of these people. But am I going to take pot shots at my fellow colleagues because this opportunity? No. And poor taste, everyone that did. This is another story over here. It's not part of this one. What other delays are being caused by this? We can't finish the coastal plan because not everybody can take part in it that has expertise in it. People are having debates about my community without me in it. So there's a lot to be fixed around here before we can say we're all good. And I would just want to say the gains of this council are because you are also qualified and such apt leaders in your own right. Yeah, because they're all gains in everybody's expertise role. Myself, I didn't vote for Russ. Actually, I stood against him, and I've been maligned for the term, so I'll own that. But that's just me. Kia ora.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I want to make this clear. This is not about Three Waters. This is not about Fred. What it is about is this. It's clear that we've lost. It is clear we have lost trust and confidence in our chair. You were elected by us to represent the majority views of council. We have already had our reputation damaged by personal views that were shared in nationwide forums. At our December meeting, we were clear that the chair's performance needed to lift, and this has not eventuated. When the article came to light on the day of our March full council meeting, there was no mention by Russ on the matter, no attempt to front foot the issue with his colleagues. Weeks went by before this matter was spoken about in councillor only time, and our concerns were many and they were not heeded. Now today, this is not something that I have entered into lightly. I've tossed and I've turned and I've lost a lot of sleep. However, we have made good decisions in this triennium, but the culture of our council needs attention, and in my opinion, the culture filters down from the head. Good governance and leading in this space is about doing what's right by everyone who lives in our region. So on this matter, I support the motion.
Kia ora. Matua. Who? No, he's a mover.
Wake up. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hugh Verco, and I'm opposing the motion. If you ask me why I'm opposing it, I have, this is my last year in local government. I will have done 27 years. And today is the saddest day in all those 27 years that I've been in local government. It is sad because we, the council, are looking at removing a chair that has done more than my 27 years, who has given everything for the people, for Hamilton City, for people in the region, and has achieved an awful lot that he can be proud of. Why then are we going to tip him out at a little 4 months before the end of the term, when we should be getting to the end of the term and then having a function to celebrate all the years that Russ has given to this community and to thank him for many, many years? I hope they thank me when I finish up in October the 5th or whenever that comes around to being. But instead of that, we're debating whether to chuck him out now. That is totally unfair, uncalled for, and I simply cannot go with it. If I then ask myself, so why is Russ being, or the attempt being made to chuck him out? Is he a racist? Let's put it out there. Is he a racist? In my opinion, Russ is not a racist, never has been, but he's a person that says what he thinks. So therefore, if you say that he's not a racist, and I'm looking for evidence like some of the other speakers have done and said, well, what is the crime that Russ is guilty of? Why should we hang him now? You can't go back before the 9th of December meeting and saying he did this before December, because we dealt with that at the meeting after the 9th of December. That is gone. You now have to say, what is the crime that Russ has done since that meeting that warrants his head being cut off at this time? And nobody's yet told me what the crime is, the deadly crime that he has put into there. So we look at what Russ has expressed his views on. And firstly, he said that he is opposed to Three Waters. Can I quote from a very, very leading publication that distributes all the way around the area? Make a note of it if you like. And the person over there sitting there, Mayor Tanner from Manamatepiako District Council, is also quoted in this wonderful paper, of which I own shares, so therefore I'll declare a conflict of interest, but never mind. The headline in the paper for this week on Three Waters is 32 councils oppose Three Waters. 32 councils. It doesn't say Mayor Tanner doesn't like it, and we know that because of his comments. It says 32 councils oppose Three Waters. So if 32 councils oppose Three Waters, is Russ not entitled to say that he is not supportive of Three Waters at this stage? And I say, yes, he is. It's free speech. He can say what he thinks, and if others believe him, or it starts a dialogue for those that say, no, Three Waters is a good idea, to start the dialogue as to why it's not a good idea and all the things that can go wrong with it. So therefore, we're obviously, or hopefully, not hanging him because he is opposed to Three Waters. So what are we hanging him for? Partnership, co-governance, call it what you like. It is an issue that is up for discussion at the moment and is being discussed freely. For those that wonder where I come from, I live in a Maori world, I live in a Pākehā world. I understand the scenarios that are in there and the debate that is being taken place. What and how is there an inclusive New Zealand, and how do we get there? And a lot of the discussion that is out there is saying, let's talk about it. If you don't talk about it openly and honestly and you're too scared, well, if I say I don't approve this, they'll call me a racist. Help yourself. If you want to have a go, I'll take it to court. So therefore, let's have the discussion. Let's have the debate. Let's bring along the community of this country of ours and decide how we are going to manage inclusion of everybody in here. So it's a good thing. And at the moment, I'm not sure how co-governance partnership will work because we haven't had the debate. So let's have the, but don't hang him because he said he didn't like it at the moment. That's a bit bloody hard. I'll make a couple of comments that was mentioned. There's a difference between a mayor and a chair. When you go back to 1989, when councils were formed up, the reason that the regional council was different is that if you had the chair of the regional council elected at large, they would always, without doubt, come from Hamilton City, because that's where the population is for the region. So to avoid that happening, they said we'll have a different system of electing the chair of a regional council to electing a mayor. That's the only reason, nothing to do with he can't speak for it, because he can speak for the region. He is the chair of the regional council. He is within his right to speak without saying, I must go back and ask everybody else if they agreed with me. Yes, he can. He has that right. So to me, it's a very sad day. And if this motion goes through, it will be a sad day. But I also believe in utu, in karma, and I believe that things will come out. Thank you for your time.
Good on Mata. So three comments left, myself, and of course our mover and our seconder. I'm going to do mine very short, and probably not say half as much as what everyone else has said. As the deputy chair to Russ, I believed I did a great job with Russ. I believe that, like all chairs, no chair is easy to work with as long as you're the deputy chair. There are things you like and things you don't, and things you don't hang your washing out to do in public. I was quite clear with our chair that I would never ridicule him in public. I would take it into his office and do that. I like to believe I've done that up to date. I'm not going to comment on whether Russ has done a great job or a bad job, because each and every one of us has done a brilliant job as councillors for your constituents. I have a constituency that is absolutely different to half of you, to all of you, except for Tapa. I have a Māori constituency. They only read something once or twice and see the bad in what they read. So I'm not going to sit here and say anything other than the fact that I do have the backing of my constituency in this corridor, and that's all I'm going to say. I was put here by a constituency of Māori, only on the Māori roll. I am not like some of you who have Māori, Pākehā, Indians, whatever on your roll. Mine is either Māori or half Māori. And I have a very, very good relationship with all of them throughout my area. So, as you know, they are my first and only aroha I have to give to, and I give it to the rest of you when I awhi you in your area where there's Māori. I like to go with you so that you have a relationship with the Māori in your constituency. I've always offered that to each and every one of you. So I'm going to vote, and my vote should be enough. It saddens me that we are at this world of such a last time. I was made quite clear by the Ropu why I am in this role in the first place. So that's all I have to say. I enjoy my deputy chairship with Russ, but I'm a chair. I've been a chair for a long, long time. So I will enjoy my deputy chair with whoever is the next chair, or if it's Russ, or wherever I go. Just letting you know that my constituency are who I'm backing today. So, mover first or seconder? Which one of you want to go first? You got a little bit more time than the others, but not that much more. Please keep to your points. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Look, obviously, as a seconder, I support the motion. But I wanted to begin by thanking Councillor Rimington for the assistance he gave me as a new councillor. For example, his decision to form the Climate Action Committee and his support for public transport out in the region stand out to me. But fairly early in this term, it became obvious that you have a divisive style and you struggle to draw a clear line between when you're expressing a personal opinion and when you're speaking on behalf of the council. I can recall back in 2020, when in the space of 1 hour, you made public statements about coastal hazard protection policy and then purported to commit council to a multi-million-dollar regional development grant when council had not debated or even adopted a formal position on either. The problem was not about the ultimate council decisions, but the imposing of your personal views and the confusing of the public conception of where the public stands. This is why an attempt, as we've heard now from 5 speakers, to frame Councillor Rimington's chairmanship as only being about Three Waters issue is totally wrong and misguided. It has nothing to do with that issue. What it's about is that we as a council had developed a carefully considered position only to have you misrepresent that position and to articulate your personal minority view. In December, we passed a censure and no confidence motion, but unfortunately that warning went unheeded, and we've had further examples of failing to accurately communicate the council's agreed position. So I want to be crystal clear about this. This has never been about the Three Waters issue. For me, in large part, it's about the chair's failure to accurately and fairly represent a clearly expressed majority policy of the council on many issues. And as I've said, this has been going on throughout this triennium. And I have to say, this stuff matters because, as many others have said, we've made some great decisions as a team and remain highly functional. But unfortunately, our reputation as an organisation has suffered because our agreed policy positions have been overtaken by miscommunication by the chair and the controversy that follows. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, Ross, we sat down with you at a councillor catch-up nearly 4 weeks ago, just ourselves and you, and we raised serious concerns with you directly. And as has been mentioned by other speakers, we couldn't get a straight answer from you. And it kind of felt like you thought our concerns would go away if you fobbed us off. That's how it felt to me. We felt almost effectively incapable of getting you to take us seriously and understand where we were coming from. And that's been a pattern for quite some time now, and that's fundamental to why we formally asked you to vacate the chair. Now here we are 3.5 weeks later. We're facing a really challenging and to be brutally honest, a really unpleasant decision, both for you and for us. And I don't think anyone in here is happy about where we've found ourselves today. I've really agonised about this decision. But equally, we just can't continue on the current trajectory, Russ. I agree with some of the other comments here that we need to sort things out in a better way. But, you know, we can't escape the fact that during the past 3.5 weeks since we asked you to resign, you've made no effort whatsoever to reach out to me, and as I understand it, most of the others that signed that letter, to see if there's another way to fix this problem. I've had zero contact from you, Russ. You know, we all make mistakes, stuff happens, and you've said that, we all do it. But the problem we've got is you make no effort to be up front with us, tell us what's going on, and in other words, maintain our trust. So, you know, you've not proposed any solutions, Russ. You just want another fight. That's what it keeps coming down to. And look, I'm tired of that approach, Russ, and I just want to move on. This isn't about Three Waters. It's not our game. You know that, never has been. It's not about freedom of speech and media mistakes and so on. For us as WRC, I don't know what the issue is with co-governance that people are talking about, because we've been doing that for over a decade now. Half the community don't even know, and that's testament to the fact that we just get on and do it with our iwi partners, and it works really well. I mean, every single freshwater consent that gets issued by this council has gone to our iwi partners for consideration. You find me anyone that's had their water consent rejected by iwi. It just works, you know. The 9th of December meeting's been mentioned. Not once have you checked in with us. As has been mentioned, we really raised some serious concerns there, and I acknowledge your apologies. That was good, but not once since then have you checked in with any of us or with us as a council team and asked how we were going, were we happy with stuff, you know, were we happy with the way in which you were addressing all the concerns we raised? Not once have you come to us as a team and said, how am I going? You know, are we on track to deliver the improvements we asked for? It just feels like you couldn't care less about us as a team, Russ. You demonstrate complete indifference to our views. You haven't once in your talked about team culture. All you did was bag Fred. So look, to finish, I've been around this table for 10 years now. When I got here, relationships with many of our partners and stakeholders were not great, and you will testify to that. He was very critical. Now, the previous council term, the then chair, he got us to a place where the regional councils were a really well respected and valued part of New Zealand, or Wakatawanka, I should say. And you know, this council here, we inherited some really valuable relationship capital, if I could call it that. But you know, we haven't been looking after it. Instead of building on it, we've been mining. So, you know, look, to summarise, I acknowledge your community contribution, Russ. It's been really good. No one denies that. But we can't keep continuing down the way we're going. So, look, I've got an open mind, but I'm really struggling here because despite the numerous requests we've given you, you've given us nothing to work with. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chris, all good? We're going to the motion now? Anything you want to say? Marley? Good? All good? We're going into the motion.
Happy to help. So at this point, Madam Chair, now that everyone has had the opportunity to speak, it's time to put the motion. Back to you.
Okay, so the motion has been moved by Councillor Kneebone, second by Councillor Teague. And the motion is that the council remove Councillor Remington from the position of chair of the Waikato Regional Council. So all those in favour of moving him, please raise your right hand. Is somebody going to count this, Marley? Yeah, yeah.
Division is called, so we'll take names. Those for the
I got the
motion
names.
are Councillor Tegg, Councillor McPherson, Councillor Nicol, Councillor Litchwick, Councillor Mahuta, Councillor Strange, Councillor Kneebone.
And myself.
And Councillor Hodge, thank you. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 members in favour. You can put against.
And the against? Do we need to count them and name them?
We do need to name them because a division has been called. So I'll call the names for you, Dave. Those against are Councillor Husband, Remington, Story, Quayle, Burko and White against.
Thank you. So the motion has been moved and it's absolute that Councillor Remington has been removed as the chair of Waikato Regional Council. Thank you, everybody.
Madam Chair, under Standing Orders A, it's quite permissible for me to make a personal statement without interruption. Madam Chair, may I say that obviously disappointing, but I just want to say, firstly, thanks to my wife, first time she's been to a political debate in 30 years. Probably not one that she wanted to come to, but it has been, seriously, Madam Chair and councillors, an absolute honour to be able to serve and to lead a council in which we've done over this period and years before. And that's democracy. Democracy has spoken. It's not in my favour in the numbers, and that is the result of debate and the opportunity to actually talk about issues around the table. I've got to say, Madam Chair, given our esteemed legal advice, obviously a judicial review will be undertaken, and I'd like to thank, last but not least, the councillors that have supported me and have spoken from the bottom of their hearts today. I greatly appreciate it and always will. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you, Mr. CEO, the impartial way in which you've handled these proceedings. I regret when you didn't even want to have breakfast with me down at the James Cook on Friday, which demonstrated your impartiality. And again, the directors that you've employed that really make this place tick. Kia ora, thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Because our time has been over 2 hours, we're going to have a 10-minute break before we come back to the next session.
I'd like to say that there's two things in this world: there's democracy